All right, welcome back to part two of our Big 12 conference breakdown. A couple days ago, we released our episode where we went over the top contenders and the bottom dwellers of this conference. Now we have the teams that could pretty much either just play spoiler or, according to some of us, maybe win the conference. or, I don't know. Guys could make a late season push, or honestly, they could make you pull your hair out for about a week or so. So we're going to break them down. We have a middle 8 teams to pretty much go through that are stuck in this Big 12 blender of chaos here. And we're going to go right into it. No waste of time. So we left off a couple days ago of going over. Who was our last one? I forget.
We did UCF last.
Well, we did UCF, but I meant like in terms of like our top 5 or 4 or whatever.
You did Iowa State, and then me and Dylan threw Baylor up there.
That's right. Okay. So today, resuming that, pretty much just going to go down the line. I don't have Baylor yet.
We know who's 6 for you, okay?
So everybody knows. If you listen to the first part, you should probably know who 6 is. That is the Horny Toads. That's crazy.
The Toads are horny today, apparently.
I forget. What was like the big Hypnotoad? That's what it was.
Hypnotoad, yeah.
Hypnotoad, yeah. Yeah, I am all in on Josh Hoover supremacy here, as I kind of went over a little bit in the
Furry.
first one. That Twitter, that post was
so out there.
Dude, I was in the middle of my workday today again, and then hit me with that. That was actually hilarious.
Whatever you're into.
Yeah. Oh boy. Obviously we know what this team did in 2022. Miraculous run to the Natty. And they were really, really good then. Obviously that team is pretty much long gone. But I know it's so funny because like I said, I was talked about all the close games that they had. Or all the not even they had the conference, like close games in this conference are just apparently a must for some reason. I don't understand why, but that's how things go. They started last year 3-3, pretty much because of a god awful defense. And then they ended up winning 6 of their last 7. Had a very, very good end of the year that was pretty much overlooked because of Arizona State and teams like that, which is fine. Whatever. They were better, of course. Not even close. The offense, however, they were pretty much singing. You know what I mean? India Ball's defense, they went from averaging and allowing an average of 37 points over its first 5 games to just over 19. So barely over 19, but below 20. Because that decimal matters there, all right? Below 20. Like it was almost like it just got completely missed, and a lot of people didn't really notice. And they were 9-4, great season, and they had two votes in the final poll, so they didn't even miss out. They missed out on the final top 25 poll, which, in my opinion, I think was a little bit of a mistake, but whatever.
You know who they lost to in their last 6 games?
I do not.
Baylor.
Revenge tour. Who cares? All right, moving on.
Yeah, continue.
I would share the text message like right after we recorded that first episode. It was so funny though. He's like, in all seriousness.
In all seriousness.
We literally both have their overwin totals.
Both. I'm arguing that Baylor's a better team, and I have I have TCU to win over 6.5 games.
I don't know. Who cares? Yeah, who cares? So I'll talk about Josh Hoover, even though I did a little bit already. I know last episode I mentioned about the 4,000 yards thing, almost 30 touchdowns, high completion rating. Naturally is because they cannot run the ball. However, he's got a better O-line in front of him now. I don't even want to say him, but I mean they have they could run the ball a little bit better, obviously, this year. They do have 3 transfers, it looks like, on the line alone. Skill position players, I think, did need to kind of reload a little bit. They did lose 4 of its top 5 targets, including its leading rusher at the time. Aaron McAllister, who was their big play guy, and then Joseph Manjack from Houston, and now they have Jordan Dwyer, who was a near 1,200-yard rusher or 1,200-yard receiver at Idaho. Sorry. Yeah, things could go to pretty much a different level of excitement here, as these guys are pretty young, as well as they have a couple sophomores and freshmen right behind them. Shout out Braylon James, former ND guy. Love that guy. Hope he does well. Defense, on the other hand, they returned 11 of people who played 200 snaps. A lot of high-level playmakers, good linebackers, solid nickel, solid DBs, and returning a sacks leader. Secondary, on the other hand, is loaded with seniors. Obviously headlined by Bud Clark, one of the best defenders in the Big 12 this year by far. But I think it could take a little bit more for Avalos to kind of generate some decent pass disruption, unless those transfers kind of make noise and are immediate impacts in the game. I don't hate them. I don't hate Baylor. I just think that, like, the reason why I have them above Baylor is literally because I think they beat Baylor this year. That's practically the only reason. They are probably the most even team as you can get in this conference. That's like, literally, it's A and B. Yeah, that's the only reason I have them above them. I do like Baylor. I do have their over win total, but I didn't know who Sawyer Robinson was until, like, maybe, what was that, like 2 weeks ago?
We're going
Not gonna lie to you. Not gonna lie.
So TCU, like you mentioned, Josh Hoover's really good. Probably a top 3 or 4 QB in the Big 12, I'd say, and honestly, probably top 10 to 15 in the country. Dude's really good. They're going to have to figure out, like you said, pass catchers on the outside. Losing 2 NFL receivers, something that is hard to replicate. However, I do trust Sonny Dykes. They do have to figure out a run game. It was not good last year. No TCU running back posted over 100 yards rushing last year. They only averaged 3.3 yards per carry. Their top 2 running backs depart. So they're going to have 2 young guys that have been in the program for a little bit, and then also a UTSA starter transferred, Kavorian Barnes. The offensive line improved last year in the passing game, but needs to improve in the running game. I think the defense really took a step forward last year, which I think really helped, especially towards the end of the season. I have 2 questions on this team. One is their schedule, if they can get through it. There's a lot of tough games in here. At UNC week 1, SMU at home in week 4, at Arizona State, Colorado at home, at Kansas State, Baylor at home, Iowa State at home, at BYU, at Houston, Cincinnati to end the year. Decent amount of tough games. And then looking back from last year, they beat 1 team that went to a bowl game last year, which was... Who was it? Hold on. I'm literally staring at it.
Was it
Texas Tech. Texas Tech was the only team they beat that won a bowl. Their wins last year were Stanford on the road, at Kansas, at Utah, Texas Tech at home, Oklahoma State, Arizona, and Cincinnati. So now we completely reverse the schedule. It's going to be a big step up from playing some of the bottom teams to playing some of the top teams. I do think they're good. I have them 6th, just like you. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and I think Josh Hoover helps that. I think the biggest question is, and why I couldn't put him in the top 5, is just the schedule, and we'll see. I think this is one of those teams that could 100% be in the top 3, and I wouldn't be surprised.
You could say that about so many people in this conference. I feel like, but that UC
America's conference.
Yeah, that TCU UC game or Cincinnati for whatever for people who actually don't call it UC. I was brutal because I was at that game. But it was a snowball and we were freezing our balls off watching this team just collapse. I was like,
They only
yeah,
scored 20 points that game, too.
I will say their uniforms in the snow look pretty freaking sick.
TCU's?
Yeah,
I mean, their uniforms in general look pretty
I
cool.
love those.
Purple's
They were wearing
cool.
like the white on white with the chrome, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting some Texas boys to be that good in the snow, though. I'm not gonna lie. So props to you guys. Big props. Yeah, I have Baylor following TCU. What's crazy is that like my initial model that I had on them had Baylor at 6.7 projected wins.
Schedule's tough.
Yeah, it's just like after looking at it, and I was just like, maybe I'm like not so big on them after such a really good end to last year as well. But then I kind of did a little bit more reading, similar like I pretty much always do for every team, apparently.
We're always doing more reading.
I think I jumped the gun a little bit too early on some of these guys, but it's okay. If TCU and Arizona State were the most overlooked success stories of last year, it had to be Baylor. They won the Big 12 in 2021, and it was a phenomenal game when they beat. I think it was Oklahoma State. It took them out of playoff contention. That was a goal line stand.
Yeah, that was the 1 yard game or whatever.
Yep. Over the next two seasons, Aranda went 9-16 over the following two seasons, and then last year started 2-4. And similar, obviously, to their rival. I mean, they pretty much was a rising stock after that. After this first like 6 weeks, they run 6 in a row. They didn't really. I'll put it this way: the offense won 6 in a row. The defense didn't really give them much to work with, and I don't know how to pronounce their coordinator's last name. I forgot. It starts with like a P. It's something crazy. Or an S. Sorry, it's like an SP something. I don't know. I forget his name. But yeah, phenomenal play caller, and it seems like that he fit Sawyer's scheme perfectly. And then you have your backs like Bryson Washington and Dawson Pendergrass. They ran for 1,700 yards and 18 tutties. All while Sawyer was still throwing for 3,000 and almost 30 touchdowns. They gained at least 20 yards on 8.7% of its snaps. That's top 10 in the country. And they did that while gaining 0 or fewer on just 27.7%. That was top 20 in the country. So when you have numbers like that and you have stats like that, that's obviously going to bring a ton of points to the scoreboard. And there's no reason to think that this offense is going to regress. And even with, and like I was saying, I think a couple of days ago as well, we talked about it briefly, but he led the Big 12 in QBR last year, over Levitt, over Sanders, over Hoover. There wasn't really a ton of good Big 12 QBs. I think Jalen Daniels obviously fell off in terms of he's not really a passer in the biggest way, but Rocco Beck, I mean, Noah Fafita, guys like those, I mean, they weren't really up there this year. Even Retzlaff even had a miracle season, and he wasn't even up there. But Sawyer, he gets his back. That's a tongue twister. Wow. Leading receiver, Josh Cameron. They have Ashton Hawkins. Those guys even combined for 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns. And now Aranda goes and gets two big time transfer receivers. A guy from Texas State, Cole Wilson, who's actually really, really good at Texas State. And then they got a guy from Alabama, and Kobe Prentice. So, like I said, 4 starters returning on the O-line. They scored 31 or more points 9 times last year. I think they hit on that as well a couple days ago. Like I said, it would be a surprise to me, especially if they did that in fewer games this year. Honestly, if you're wanting to compete for a Big 12 title, though, it's got to be on the defense. on the defensive side of the ball. The pass defense was god awful. They had a decent, solid run defense. They lost 3 games while scoring 28 or more points, and this like when you have games like that, that's gonna hurt big time. So the coordinator Powell, I think it's Powledge, did they say it? Yeah, he's on his 3rd year. I'm not really incredibly high on the guy, but like I said, he added some size up front in the pass rush. And then they have a couple good returnees on the secondary line. So 6 incoming defensive backs. Hopefully that changes the stigma of the pass defense that we know of. And I'm hoping that having such an experienced team could prove important as the schedule starts with an absolute banger with Auburn. Hosting Auburn, mind you, but they also host Arizona State and then they go to SMU. It's similar to TCU. Not an easy schedule in the slightest. It's still a pretty decent gauntlet there. But the home and road split I think is decently favorable. And like I said, if the defense top 30, top 40, even then, I think the offense can easily get them to a decent, like you were saying, TCU, maybe even a top 3, maybe a top 4 contention right there. So I don't think it's a reach, but I just like TCU better.
Yeah, I'm not doing this argument today, so we all know where I stand on Baylor. Next.
I said a couple nice things.
Next.
Okay.
Who's 8?
Well, now
this is where things get fun.
Yeah. We both take sips of water. Go right back.
I need to talk. I was thirsty.
After Baylor, do you want me to go or do you want you to go?
I don't care.
Okay.
I'm curious who your 8th team is.
Huh?
Who's your 8? I'm just curious who your 8th team is.
I feel like we might have the same. I'm not gonna lie. Did you already say your 8th yesterday or a couple days ago? No.
No, I said my 7th.
That's right. Okay. Which was Iowa State?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm 90% sure. If it's not this team, then I'm not sure who it is because this is just gonna be nuts. Gotta be BYU.
Nope.
Dude, no way.
Yep.
Okay, then it's Colorado.
Nope.
Oh my god. All right. So I have BYU behind Baylor, despite losing their quarterback like literally a month ago, maybe less than a month ago. This is hard grading this team this high, even though their QB race is full of just raw QBs. Yeah, it's not looking promising, but if you just bear with me, okay? The thing is that like with this team, I was wrong about this team last year. I think a lot of people are wrong about this team last year. They've been all over the map though the last like few years, and they've been like zigging and zagging like crazy. Obviously they lose the best quarterback that they pretty much ever had in Zach Wilson. Then you go and turn to a couple of guys, and you have a 10-3 record in 2021. And then you're like, oh my god, this team might be kind of good. And then bang, 8-5. Oh no. And then you go back 2023. Oh no, 5-7. And then you go to 2024, and then it's kind of like random surge again, and then you're like, oh crap, kind of like low-key legit. And borderline, they might have been. Were they top 15 in the year? Or just outside?
I think they were just outside.
I think 17, maybe 16, something like that. I don't know. Yeah, like this team is just nothing but a gigantic shrug of shoulders, in my opinion. But I am reasonably confident in their defense. I love the defensive line. I love the linebackers that they have. I like their offensive line. And then not only that, they have a incoming good transfer running back, it looks like. No, he's returning. Sorry. Yeah, like I said, they're not the only question is that who the heck is throwing these guys the ball? 3 of the top 4 weapons, I should say, are out. However, Chase Roberts, stud, super fun guy to watch. JoJo Phillips, super kind of young. Parker Kingston, very, very good in small samples. And the only thing that worries me about the wide receiver room now is the depth. Schedule, interesting. 3 opponents projected 88th or worse. And then you have 3 between 52 and 60th. And then after that, you have 4 ranked at 32 or better. So, like I said, it literally just a matter of who plays quarterback for this team. But like I said, the defense should be amazing. Like one of the best, I'm going to say, yeah, top 5 and maybe the conference, I'd say. That's not really a reach, maybe top 3. They could be right behind Utah. That's like honestly how good I think this defense could be. But Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker, absolute dynamite. 20 plus tackle for loss last year, over 8 sacks. The only thing that worries me is that in terms of defenders, there's only 2 of 8 returning that saw 200 snaps. But the top 4 defensive linemen are also gone, as are the 3 starters in the secondary. However, the replacements are just as good. So I'm confident in the defense. I think that's what wins them the games here. And clearly in this conference, I think that's kind of what does win the most games in this conference is the defense. But yeah, like I said, when a favorable schedule like that and a good defense as they do, I think that they actually have a decently solid season. I'm seeing at least 7 to 8 wins. I don't think it's going to be anything outrageous. I don't think it's going to be anything bad. They're going to easily get a bowl game. But yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised to see this team at 8, maybe 9. They sneak off a spoiler one eventually, but yeah.
Yeah, post spring I took their over win total at 7.5, and then unfortunately their 3 best players on the offensive side of the ball decided to either transfer out or have problems with Retzlaff. And then you also had Darius Lassiter, who tried to get a bonus year and was denied. And then you had Marion, another receiver, transferred to Miami after spring ball. So I think the offense takes a major hit. They're going to have a quarterback starting that has not played a snap for BYU this year, whether that is McKay Hillstead from Utah State, Trayson Borgett from Western Michigan, or Bear Bachmeyer. Somehow there are more Bachmeyers still around. I don't think that any of those 3 guys are going to replicate what happened last year. I think Jake Retzlaff was a really good quarterback in the Big 12 last year. I do trust this offensive line, like you said. I think the offensive line is going to be their strongest unit of the team, which I think does help. I think the returning running back is helpful. I think you're going to see this team be more of a run-first, play defense kind of team. And like you alluded to, the schedule is not tough. You have very winnable games. You get the rivalry game against Utah at home. You've got 2 tough road trips, but you get TCU at home. At Colorado, we don't know what Colorado is really going to be, and it's early. I still see this team potentially hitting their win total of 7.5. I think 8 is very possible. I think at worst you're seeing a 6-6 team. I don't see this team not making a bowl. They lost a lot, but I trust the coaching a tremendous amount. I think they have one of the best coaches in the Big 12, and so with all the losses, I think it's definitely a step back, unfortunately, but I think they're still going to be a tough out regardless. So I have this team at 9, just 1 step below you. With Retzlaff leaving, I bumped him down another spot.
All right, for my 9th team, I have none other than Rock Chalk. I have Kansas as my 9th. I do like Leopold, no matter how many coaching carousels this guy is a part of year in, year out. I'm always a big fan of this guy. Consistently a top 50 SD plus team, roughly contending for bowl contention. Yeah, it's just not. I don't think you can hate the guy.
in year 5, or sorry, no, in year 4, 4 years in, he is 5 years in. Yeah, we're right. Okay,
Yeah, this is
never mind.
yeah.
Year 5. We're looking at 22 and a 28 overall record in his tenure here. Obviously, Kansas isn't the most football-y program out there, as we pretty much know. I think a 2025 rebound is not really a stretch, though, to be honest with you. I think it's a decent another bowl contending season, roughly 6-6, 7-5. I did take the opposite of pretty much of what I'm talking about is the only issue.
You did take under 7.5.
Yes. I have them under at 7.5 because I have them projected right at 7-5. Because the model projected 6.3, I really don't think that they get 6 wins. I'm pretty confident on 7, but yeah, did take their under 7.5 just a couple of days ago. I think I talked about that actually as well, and did it a couple of days ago. But obviously they still have Jalen Daniels. Somehow, some way, he has eligibility.
It's got to be like 28, dude.
Yeah, I don't know how many career passing yards he's at now, but it's got to be up there on the list for sure.
I never plays, so
that's also true. He's got his third coordinator in as many years. But the only good part about that is that it's actually a familiar name in terms of QBs and coaching QBs. Some people might know them, but I know him only because he's been around. Jim Zebrowski. He's been through a handful of programs. Off the top of my head, I really can't name them, but I do. It's like one of those things like where you've seen the name and you're like, oh yeah, I've heard of that guy. And so now Jalen gets to work with him. However, that's not all of the complete change. I think 2 other offensive starters return, and 2 of them are on the O-line. And then he's going to be surrounded by transfers as his skill position weapons. So in a running back spot, they have a guy from Iowa, 5 new pass catchers, and then a couple of FCS players. They did get an Alabama transfer and Emmanuel Henderson Jr., and then 5 new offensive linemen on top of the main 2. And then on defense, DK McDonald, he's got a unit that's pretty much just has more change than the offense does, surprisingly. 15 defenders with 200 plus snaps. 5 of those guys returned. 4 of them are linemen. Good thing that they're keeping the pass rush there, but the back 7 is going to be led by entire transfers. It's just not, yeah. They do have good linebackers. I do like the defense a lot this year. But in the incoming, the only thing that worries me is the secondary. They're not really proven. I think the pass defense is going to continue to be a liability. But at the end of the day, if Jalen's healthy or if Jalen is not healthy, it pretty much kind of determines the longevity of the year right from the get-go. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I wouldn't think that it's necessarily the worst in the world. Quite frankly, it's an easy 6-6 season at the very, very worst, I think. That's like literally their floor. Yeah, if they somehow manage to get to 8, I don't really see 8. The only I just don't. I mean, unless they're miraculously playing spoiler, like a lot of these middle teams are probably, they could very well be an 8-4 team. I just not really confident in it as I am a 7-5 team. So, lateral moving year, I don't really think that. I mean, obviously it's going to be a rebound year, but I don't necessarily think it's out of the picture to count them out completely.
So this is my 8th team. I have them just above BYU. Note on Zebrowski, he was the quarterback's coach at Kansas from 2021 to 2023, and then he was the co-offensive coordinator last year. So we are getting some continue. What's the word?
I guess continuity or
continuity. Sorry. Yeah, we're getting continuity here, which I think does help Jalen, and I also think it helps this offense. Like Cade said, This is basically just a team that's full of transfers this year. Not many starters, but it comes down to Jalen Daniels. If he can stay healthy and he can play like he did 2 years ago before he got hurt, this team could play spoiler and it could win a game that you're not expecting them to. I agree. I think the defensive line's going to be pretty good. I also think the offensive line's going to be pretty good. I know they graduated 3 guys, but they've got 2 dudes that could have gone to the draft this year as well. And they both returned, which I think is huge.
Yeah, both are all conference, aren't they? I mean, I thought they were all conference.
They were. And also, Daniel Highshaw finally getting his turn after Devin Neal leaves, I think is also big because Highshaw's been very good throughout his career, and he finally gets the lead role. So I think that helps. They've got to find some pass catchers. They're going to have to figure out the secondary for sure. But I definitely think that that a bowl game is 100% possible. They play in odds projection, they play the bottom 4 teams in the Big 12. So if you just go ahead and rule those as 4 wins, which we shouldn't, but we could, your toughest games at Missouri in week 3, Cincinnati in week 6 at home, at Texas Tech. You get a bye before the rivalry game against Kansas State, which is at home as well. And then you finish at Iowa State and then at home against Utah. I'm going to call it right now. I think that Kansas State game's a win. I think this team is 100% at least 7-5. I think Jalen Daniels is too good of a quarterback when he's healthy, and if they can keep him upright and healthy, I think this team is very much going to make noise. I've got 4 for sure losses. I think there is a possible 8-4. I think that Kansas State game's the game.
That's the only part that I'm kind of worried. Is that game, they get that at home though, correct?
Kansas at home off a bye.
Well, is that technically, what is Arrowhead, I guess, then?
No. They'll play that at the new stadium's open.
Oh, it's completely open now.
Yeah.
I thought
they finished it.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. It's at home.
Okay. Well, I don't want to say that I'm skeptical about my win total now. I mean, I still think that 7-5 is the most likely opportunity here. All comes to worst, you can always hedge with that game as well.
Yeah, I would hedge with that game, or you could hedge with the Utah game at the end of the year.
There's a lot of hedge opportunities, in my opinion. I mean, the under is really juiced. I had it at minus 160, but I mean, yeah. And you have teams like Utah, and you have teams like Kansas State. Those are top 5, like rough, very well could be top 5 teams in the conference.
So Kansas State also comes off a bye.
So even rest, yeah.
So even rest, just the home.
And the new stadium, it'll be a pretty cool atmosphere, I think, depending on where they're at in their season for both sides. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's like a, whoa, hold your horses year. I mean, it's just like another one of those like spoiler year where they might, I don't think it's the year where they upset Texas or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Colin right now would have it as a Kansas 3-point dog.
Yeah, like that's realistic. I can see that. But yeah, depending on where they're at, I really don't hate that at all. Moving into pretty much the bottom half of the middle teams. This is probably where we're probably just gonna make flip flops, like one ranking apart. I would imagine. I would hope at least. I have Colorado at mine.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Also Colorado 10.
Yeah. If we ignore everything that Travis Hunter and Shador did, and we only look at like the results of everything outside of them, the first 2 years of Sanders being the coach here was unbelievable. He inherited a program that 16 full seasons before he got there, they had 1 winning record. Just 1. And in the second year, they jump up to 9-4. They were 2-4 against teams that were in top 50 per SP plus, but it was a clear success. Like, they were very well, much improved. I don't want to say they proved a lot of people wrong because I don't even want to get started on media and stuff like that, but I mean, they acted like this team was playoff contender from the very get-go. And just obviously, a lot of us knew, or not new, but a lot of us figured that they weren't. They had a little bit more, but 9-4 is still a very good year given the history of the program. For better or worse, though, I think this year their team is going to be completely different. Obviously, everybody knows that. 6 starters in total return across the entire team, and you have 30 incoming transfers. So the part that I'm very skeptical about within Deion Sanders is he finally has a QB that is not his son. But then again, he's also a very good QB. That's Caden Salter. That coming from Liberty, one of the best group of 5 quarterbacks in the country by far. He's practically a full, I don't even know what you want to call it, like a full lateral, I would say, completely different than Shador was. If you don't have like a decently okay rush package, you're not going to maximize his potential at all. But he is talented. They have a brand new receiving core. They have high level transfers across the board. Couple guys. They have a guy from Florida State. They have a couple guys from levels outside of D1. But among others, they have solid potential across the board. Then a running back, Dallin Hayden. I do like him. Didn't do really much last year. And then they did get a guy from Incarnate Word. So there's that. Shout out Mr. Calzada.
And Cam Ward.
No.
How about Cam Ward first?
That's okay. That's true. Up front, I think it's the 3rd straight year, I think is what it is, with a completely refurbished offensive line. So all I have to say about that is like 3 dots because it's been very mediocre at best. And yeah, like you've pretty much hit on almost every single episode and every team. I'm never confident about an offensive line pool of transfers. It just doesn't really work out well in this day and age, at least. Offense looked good last year at a lot of times, but the defense, their improvement was unbelievable. That's what drove them to win a majority of their games. And I think if a second year of Livingston can pretty much bring in the same revenue or same success with a majority of the unit being completely new, I don't think it's going to be a shock to see that they're not really seeing much regression. There's some promising additions, though, at the linebacker spot. They have a lot of good edge rushers. They have a refurbished D-line. Very, very big fellas across the board there. I'm not going to lie to you. Even some good corners, some defensive backs on the end. Yeah, they're practically dynamite on the line of scrimmage there in press coverage and a ton of passes defended. They have over 25 plus across just on the corners alone. Deion is 4-3 as a head coach when Shador is not his quarterback, and he had the most uniquely brilliant player in the country, obviously at his hands for the last 2 years. So now if you're a fan of Colorado and Boulder, I mean it's a completely new era. Even though from when Deion got there, it's a completely new chapter, and they drew the short straw in Big 12 play. I think they play 6 of the top 7 projected teams in terms of SP Plus rankings, but the overall talent across this team is very, very good. I think they're still talented, and a team that's coached by Deion Sanders is always going to be interesting. They're always going to bring in the revenue. They're always going to bring in the views, and it's going to be interesting this year to see how they rebound from such a successful year. I project this team. I like their win total over. I do have that.
What's it at?
I had it. Let me see.
The 5.5 or 6.5?
I had it at 5.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I would take that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like if just to make a bowl game. I mean, like I can live with that. Obviously, they're not gonna. I mean, it'll be a miracle if this team sees 7 to 8 wins. Obviously, that'll prove a lot of people wrong, quite frankly. But this is the test to me that puts Deion Sanders in terms of Big 12 coaches of like what he can do, versus what his coordinators can do, or if they happen to carry him, right? So kind of just depends. Well, big question marks all around, but we'll see.
Yeah, I also have this team 10, so I think it's going to be weird. we are so used to over the past 2 years watching Deion Sanders trot out with his sons and Travis Hunter, and with that being gone now, I do think this team's going to be very, very different. I think Deion is a good coach. I do think he played to his strengths the past 2 years, knowing his son and knowing Travis Hunter, and that they attempted to do air raid on purpose and that they attempted to not run the ball on purpose. My biggest question is, does he understand that that is not what Caden Salter is? And Caden Salter does not have the job yet. Julian Lewis, the 5-star who flipped
That's
from
true.
USC
Really
to Colorado, is there. So there is a possibility that both of them play, and I would say it's going to happen, is that both of them play. I still don't think they should be running the air raid. I don't think that they could rank 134th in rush yards per game. That literally dead last in the country. It's not going to be possible to win games this year. Caden Salter is a dual threat guy. He wants to actually run the ball or like Shadur, who was running around to make throws downfield. Caden is more of I'm going to run the ball and scramble and get the hell out of this pocket. So I think if Shadur can make the adjustments offensively, I think they're going to be okay. I really like the receiver room and how they rebuilt it. I know that they lost a ton there, but I like the transfers there. The defensive line is going to be monsters. Those guys, I mean, he got dudes from Alabama, he got dudes from Florida State, he got he did get a guy from Alabama, got a guy from Jacksonville State who was, I believe, all Conference USA, and then Martavis French, who was very, very good at UTSA 2 years ago. So obviously you're losing Travis Hunter, you're losing Shiloh Sanders defensively, but both your returning corners are back. You do lose your 2 safeties, but if you're able to play press coverage and you're able to kind of get aggressive with it like they did last year, I think this team could be really good again. I think that they're going to be in games. I think that there's a possibility that this defense gets even better while the offense gets worse, and that this team technically, statistically, is better than last year's team. I don't think it'll work. I don't think it'll go to wins. I mean, like you said, this schedule is tough. Georgia Tech in week 1 at home. You're at Houston in week 3, BYU in week 5, at TCU, Iowa State, bye, at Utah, and then you end at West Virginia, Arizona State, at Kansas State. It's a lot of presumed L's, I would say. So
most definitely.
I think a bowl game is very possible. I have flipped back and forth between 6-6 and 5-7. But I think if they can gel together quickly enough, I mean, if they beat Georgia Tech week 1, I will not be surprised.
Yeah, I know I have Georgia Tech in that one, but I mean, and I am a little shaky on it, but yeah, I think it's just going to matter on how they use Salter, if he is the guy.
Agreed. 100. Even Julian Lewis the same way.
They're really similar quarterbacks. I mean, obviously Salter's got the experienced edge, but I mean, yeah, it's the biggest question mark on the team, I think, is the quarterback position yet again.
And I think even the bigger question mark is, does Deion, change the way he has coached offense? Because if they go to more of a, read option, RPO, let's kind of run the ball on early downs kind of team, I think it plays more to the advantage of who you have now.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I have nothing else to add there. So there's your Colorado breakdown, Fox.
Joel Klatt, hit us up.
So that was my 10th, I believe?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So 11 through the rest are not necessarily, I didn't even want to rank these. I was kind of just going down the list because
I'm cool to do that.
The last few are just very, very, there's not really much to it. I guess I'll start with the most disappointing Big 12 team of last year by far, and it is quite frankly not close at all. I have Oklahoma State.
Okay.
Gundy has coached here for 20 plus years, and all the success that this guy's had, and incredible, right? But they were just bad. Like, there's unlucky, and yeah, this is just bad. The offense got off one to finish it. They were only occasionally redeeming itself with a decently big play here and there, and some solid red zone execution. The defense, on the other hand, just dumpster fire, right? The funny thing is that, like, his defenses have actually been pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't want to say great, but he's hired. Sorry. He's hired 2 Division II guys separately. There was one was the offensive coordinator. This was back in 2012. Now he's hired another D2 guy in 2023, and this was back in this is 2023. Yeah, okay. Yeah, shocker. They both kind of sucked. Defensive efficiency and explosiveness was among the worst in the country, as bad as Texas Tech, as bad as West Virginia. They were plain and simple. They're just bad. The only thing is that, like, what are you supposed to do when, like, you're a relatively inexperienced small school defensive coordinator, like, loses you games? You pretty much looked for the most experienced big school guy that you can pretty much find. And so leads to Todd Grantham. So he's been in charge of really, really, really impressively good units in the early 2010s. He's went to Georgia, he's went to Louisville, he's went to Florida. However, on the flip side of that, he's also had his bad seasons. But the thing about this guy is that he is a pure blitzer. Like, dude just loves to blitz, and he loves his pass rushers. So Gundy did what he pretty much told him to do, and he brought in some pass rushers, got some edge rushers, and more linebackers, and a couple of really big tackles. Just lots of new transfers, some JUCOs, honestly, even for the secondary. But he stripped the defense down to the guys that he needs that fits the scheme, and basically now it's just basically a gamble in a way of, will it work? That's the question now. So on the offensive side of the ball, they're going pretty much back to what they know and love, and that's pretty much just a spread, like pro spread, good old fashioned Oklahoma State, good old post football right there. They have a returning coordinator, it looks like, Doug Meacham. So he was a receivers coach back in the early 2000s, who is now back in Stillwater. And his first offense is going to have 11 new starters. Most of them are pretty much of 19 transfers that they have total. They have a new running back, nice run and pass threat, Christian Fitzpatrick from Marshall, Jaden Lloyd from Nebraska. Those guys are deep route experts. They have a tight end, Oscar Hammond from North Texas, very good. 2 Division II receivers, and I'm not really sure that I see any O-line standouts or anything like that, but they're completely devoid of, like, experience at quarterback. So now you're looking at there's 2 guys, I believe. So there's Zane Flores, and then there's a redshirt freshman from TCU. And then again, like, they needed all the transfers that they got, obviously, and similar to the defense, we just have to see if it works and roll the dice with it. So Mike Gundy has obviously steered out of skids before, and every time people start to pretty much say this dude's washed, he can't coach in this league anymore, he's too old, he doesn't fit it, blah blah blah. He's put together pretty much like those 8 to 10 win seasons. But the problem that I have is that he's never had a team that bad and had to fix in the following year. So that's what scares me the most is the type of rebound that it has. And honestly, if this is the start, I don't want to call it the start, but if this is like the true fall off of Gundy, then college football world will be.
Yeah, I think it's the fall off of Mike Gundy.
Straight to the point. Yeah, this is bad.
I mean, you broke it down. I don't have much to add other than they haven't had a top 25 offense since 2019. Now you're going to try and do that with 11 new starters. Good luck.
Right.
Same things we've talked about the last couple of weeks. Transfer offensive line, transfer quarterbacks, transfer running. Like, it doesn't work. It will not work to the effect that you want it to. I personally don't even really like the transfers a ton. I feel like he brought bodies in. So I don't think they're as bad as they were last year. I think he brought in coaches that probably make it a little better. I'm not a huge fan of Todd Grantham, but he at least has an identity that they did not have. So I think you're looking 4-8, 5-7, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to
Does
say.
that get him another year?
Gun to my head, I'm taking the under win total at 5.5.
I would. There's too much here where I if I had to put money on it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
But just from a feel perspective, that's where I'd go. I hope it's not the end of Gundy, but I feel like we've run our course here. And I don't think his system works in the current stage of college football right now.
Agreed. Yeah, not really much to add, obviously, to these bottom teams, but just to kind of go real brief, my next one is Houston. I'll kind of backtrack. I did have projected Oklahoma State at 5.4. So, I mean, yeah, if you're actually using this as futures data to gather for win totals and whatnot, take that with what you will. But yeah, similar to Houston, I have them at 5.8, and then 3.5 compliments. So, Willie Fritz, first year last year, 4-8. Big time disappointment, obviously, but they're used to good offense, but they were god awful last year. On the flip side of that, defense, they're used to bad defense, and they were actually not the worst in the world in defense. They were top 60. But yeah, when you're 118th in total offense last year, I mean, they held half their opponents to 20 or fewer points, and then they scored 14 or fewer points half the season last year. That's as bad as it gets for an offense. So historically, Fritz is a decently good second-year coach, and in his 5 previous head coaching stops, from what I found online at least, there's a community college in there, Central Missouri, Sam Houston, Georgia Southern, and Tulane. He went combined from all those schools in his second year, 30, 25, and 1 in his first, and then 44 and 17 in his second. That's pretty tough.
He's a good coach.
That's pretty good. So I would guess that his second offense is definitely going to improve, obviously. They get a former Tulane offensive coordinator, and they will lead an attack that has Connor Wigman and Dean Connors, and a very, 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 very good tight end who is sought after in the transfer portal by many big schools. That is Tanner Koziol. Yes, he is from Ball State. But yeah, stud as a tight end. Not gonna lie, massive frame too. Perfect for Connor Wigman's target list, honestly. But then they have a bunch of O-line transfers as well. So Wigman, we all know about Connor Wigman. Fritz pretty much likes his athleticism, I would think, and his adaptability. I think is how you pronounce that, I guess.
Adaptability?
Sure, go with that one. But yeah, I mean, like I was watching Big 12 Media Days, and like it's all he talked about was literally just Connor, and just like apparently dynamite yards after contact guy, big tough physical runner, and it was just like big whatever, you know. Not really too much on weapons arsenal within wide receiver, but the main question is if offensive improvement simply offsets the defensive regression. I think that's pretty much what sums this team up. So their coordinator, Sheil Wood, did leave for Texas Tech. Kind of talked about that earlier in the previous episode. And now they have Austin Armstrong, 13 guys who saw 200 plus snaps. That's honestly a decently tight rotation. 4 of those guys returned, so not really much to look forward to. Still having to retool and encouraging defense this much isn't necessarily optimal. But they do play 4 projected top 50 opponents, and despite mediocre rankings across the board, I have them as projected favorite in 6 games. In the path to like a second year improvement, obviously it's there. I think it's there, to be completely honest with you. 4-8, you can't really do much worse than that. But only if he does his magic in the portal like he continues to do, because he actually has a decently good portal class on it, especially on the offensive side. But yeah, if like I said, if they improve and they cancel out the defensive regression, I mean, I think they're going to see 5-7. I think the goal is going to be a 6-6 season. That's going to be their ceiling for me, honestly. That's about it, though.
Yeah, I agree. I have this team ranked 11th. I think the goal is 6-6. I think the offense is going to be much improved. I mean, you look at some of these numbers from last year: 99th in run push, 128th in pass protection. The quarterback was terrible all year. I think just getting anything out of that group is going to be a huge bonus. I think the defense is going to fall off a little bit. Austin Armstrong's an okay coordinator. He's not. We haven't seen enough, I don't think, to really get opinions on that. I definitely think they're going to take a step back. They lost 7 starters. They lost Sheil Wood, but I do think the offense will make enough of a jump with some of these weapons that they're getting back. That I think 6-6 is there. I think it's very possible, and I trust Willie Fritz. I think that they hired the right guy. So they had the third best transfer portal class this year in the Big 12. So I think there's enough. I think there's enough there to get them to 6-6. I wouldn't be surprised by 5-7, but I see them improving this year.
Definitely. I don't think I need to hit on West Virginia. Unless we do.
No, we're good. Please
don't. I was going to say, we pretty much kind of already hit on that. I guess the only team I have below them is Cincinnati and UCF, and we already talked about UCF last episode. So,
Arizona.
True. Oh my God, I skipped over one. Oh my God, how did I do that?
I don't know.
Shout out, new guy on the show, right? Yeah, big guy. Yeah, I have Arizona, then Cincinnati, then UCF. They're not even in my ranking list right now. Oh my God. I just completely forgot to put them in here. Okay. So yeah, we get to my Arizona note. Okay, sorry. So, yeah, this team's going to be bad.
Yes.
I have a problem trying to trust a 1-year surge. And the part that's funny is that, like, Brent Brennan, Willie Fritz, they had the same record as Houston last year. They're both 4-8.
Correct.
Which is just nuts, right? Like, I wouldn't really expect.
I didn't even know they won 4 games.
Yeah, that's yeah, true. They went 10 for 31, or 10 and 31, with an average SP ranking of 98.8 from 2019 to 2022. And while that gave them a 10-win season in 2023 that like pretty much brought them to like this brand new high, and then it kind of brought last season's regression. And for some reason, quite frankly, a lot of people were surprised. I don't really know why. Even if most of us were kind of still optimistic, yeah. They do have Fafita's back. They have, I don't even know about this team, dude. O-line, bad. Wide receiver room, bad. Running back room,
Bad.
Fafita's pretty much like a flip-flops. And I kind of feel bad for the guy because he was really fun to watch during 2023. So, unfortunately, I pretty much just like gave semi-proven offensive returns when you have a guy who had the best blown block rate on the team, and that is their guard. So some transfers, I think, they're going to have to thrive. And Brennan obviously landed a few intriguing ones. They have running. It's just on the offensive side, I'm not confident in this deal. Like, I literally project 5. I definitely have 5-1 here at the most. I don't think a bowl game is really reachable here, to be completely honest with you. 7 new offensive linemen are aboard. Most of them have a really good frame and there's potential, but completely new coordinator. I don't know. The code for Arizona's defense, though, was pretty standard. It was easy to kind of figure out last year. And if you have an offense that is as good as, I'm trying to think of Cincinnati, if you have Cincinnati, a decent offense as good as they do, you're probably still going to put up 35 plus on this defense. Like, it's just
I'd agree.
bad. So Arizona versus offensive rank worse than 60th SP plus, 15.5 points per game allowed on 5 yards per play. Arizona versus top 60 offenses, 40 points per game allowed and 7 yards per play. 22 got at least 100 snaps last year on the defensive side, and only a defensive end, a nickelback, and a linebacker did anything disruptive. And outside of those 22 guys, 9 of them are coming back. So they have a new coordinator on that end. That is Danny Gonzalez. As with the offense, I kind of like some of the transfers, but nothing outstandish. But he needed a successful portal haul, while the I don't even know what you want to call it. I guess FCS to FBS pipeline, they're hard to project, and that's a lot of this team this year. There is a lot of FCS transfers. But in terms of position players and where they are and what their strengths are, really not terrible, I guess. But the extremes of their last 2 years have been like a complete whirlwind. And they've averaged 7 wins and a top 50 ranking overall the last 2 years. But I think that's just too high of a bar to clear this year. So, especially with 6 top 50 opponents on the schedule this year, it's got to be impossible. You know what I mean? I just don't see a bowl game. I don't see 6 wins. You're lucky to get 5. So,
Yeah, this is my last team in the Big 12. I think they made the wrong hire. It sucks Jed Fish left after such a great season, but I think he's in over his head. Brennan, when you fire both your coordinators after year 1, I think that shows that we have a problem. And especially the mass exodus that they had after the season shows that you have a problem. They had 55 new players come in this year. None of them were ranked 4 stars. This isn't a competitive team in the Big 12. I think
not even close.
There are 2 for sure wins on this schedule, and then you hope that you get 2 more. I think this is a 4-win team. You talked about it. It's just there's not a position group I can look at and be like, at least there's promise there. Like Noah Fafita, maybe, but I think we saw what Noah Fafita was last year. I mean, he had a top 10 pick. Yeah, he had a top 10 pick last year, and they were still bad. So, yeah, I think the bottom falls out. I would suspect Brennan probably gets fired, and we're in another coaching search next year.
It's a shame. Yeah, and then obviously Cincinnati is my second to last. Schedule. Good God. Start with that. Yeah, it's just not promising at all. Not to mention me being from Cincinnati area, I hate Scott Satterfield.
I mean, no one likes him.
And as a Big East supporter back in the day, I'm quite frankly surprised of how many Cincinnati natives are fine with a Louisville hire. Not gonna lie. Shockingly enough, this team improved last year, though is not as much as they probably hoped to.
Yeah, I mean, they went 4-8.
Offense, yeah. Offense didn't really make enough big plays at all, but they were decently efficient, especially through the passing attack. Brendan Sorsby isn't necessarily the worst quarterback in the Big 12. They have a solid tight end that's returning in Joe Royer. In terms of efficiency, I think they're pretty much the same there. I don't really think it's necessarily going to improve, but Corey Kiner is now out, and their top 4 wideouts are also out. So he's distributing the ball to some unfamiliar guys, and Satterfield pretty much saw those explosiveness issues, and he added a trio of big play receivers. Quite frankly, this receiver room is actually really fun. Caleb Goody from Colorado State, if you remember him last year, had a really big game against Colorado. Cyrus Allen from Texas A&M, who went to Louisiana Tech, was a very sought-after recruit at the time. And then another FCS guy. And you throw in an expanded role for former Ohio State running back Evan Pryor, who is old but is still pretty good. 71 touches last year, included rushes of 65, 64, 55, 36, and 32 yards. So he's a big play threat, thank God. And his pass catching ability isn't necessarily out of the question. He caught 80 passes last year, so you could have a massive uptick in big play. Its potential's there by far, but maintaining last year's efficiency, it's up to a line where you lost 3 starters but added 3 experienced transfers. It's just a matter as if they can fill the shoes, even though they're experienced there. The defense, however, on the other hand, returns big difference makers in the front 6. It's obviously, if Dante is back truly to full health, he's a potential All-American, honestly. Very, very, held close in terms of Cincinnati players and the fans, obviously, in the area. Everybody knows the guy. Yeah, just a crazy story within that. But he's healthy, obviously, for now, hopefully. They have some transfer ends off on the edge rushers in terms of, looks like one from the Sun Belt, and then you have the Eastern Michigan transfer, who was hurt last year. Supposedly they're supposed to bring some extra oomph to those guys, that unit, and some good outside linebackers who are phenomenal against the run. My question with this team has always been for the last couple of years since Luke Fickell's miraculous playoff run, what is the pass rush as well as the pass defense as a whole? 4 of last year's 5 starting defensive backs are gone. And yeah, I just don't have much hope, really. They did get a guy from Tennessee. It looks like Christian Harrison is there. A guy from Coastal Carolina is there. They have Antoine Peak Jr., who is a really sought-after nickelback who is returning. Further improvement, I think, is there for a third year for Satterfield, but a schedule, dude, like 6 top 35 opponents, and I'm just not sure what impact that's going to have on the win total by chance. But in terms of projections, I have them right at 5, unfortunately. But the offense hopefully should be good. But when you play teams as good as, I don't have a schedule in front of me, but I'm sure they play majority of those top defenses in the Big 12, like we've already pretty much discussed. It's just not going to be easy, I don't think.
I'm higher on them than you.
Good.
I think,
quite frankly, like I said, I hope they're good. I root for them. I go to the games. Fun atmosphere. Nimber's awesome, but yeah,
I think this rushing attacks can be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm big fan of Evan Pryor, big fan of Tawi Walker. Wisconsin starting running back transferred into Cincinnati. I think they both 1-2 punch that I think is going to be really fun to watch this year. I think Sorsby showed enough improvement throughout the year and showed enough promise that I think there is next steps for this year. I think that the offense should take a step forward. It's going to come down to the offensive line and whether those guys can kind of gel to start the year. I think you said 3 transfer linemen, so we don't love it, but if they can gel and if you can give Sorsby time and if you can open up run lanes, I think this team will be fun. Joe Royer is a really good tight end. He actually just broke Travis Kelce's record for receptions in a season.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's a pretty good starting point offensively, especially if you can get the offensive line to work. And then defensively, it's like you said, I think the secondary is going to be a problem this year. I don't know if that's something that's fixable this year. So I think that limits your ceiling. And then, yeah, you're going to have to find some guys to get to the passer if you don't have a good secondary. I would expect a lot of blitzing from this team. I would expect them to be pretty aggressive. The schedule is tough, but they do play for the Big 12's bottom 5. So if they could at least win 3 of those, you've got the 2 other your 2 other out of conference games that are probably bye games. So that's 5.
Right.
So you're looking at a 6th, possibly with one of these upsets that you have. You've got Nebraska in week 1 on a neutral field. You're at Kansas, Iowa State at home, Baylor at home, at Utah, BYU at home, at TCU. I think 6 is there. I think this team has improved. I think it's a better team than last year. I think they make bowl games this year. I still think Scott Satterfield should be fired, but I do think they make a bowl game.
I was calling for Satterfield's head like 2 weeks in, so I mean, yeah.
Satterfield should have been never hired. I mean, he's just not a good coach. He's not a good coach. Oh, also, I did want to mention something about Arizona. I forgot. They played 10 conference games this year.
10?
Yep.
Good God.
Yeah, they played 10, I mean, so good luck.
That's kind of bad enough that I have them projected 3.2 of those. I don't know. I said I hope you're right. I hope they're good. I'm rooting for them. I'll be looking forward to go to a couple more games this year, maybe. Shout out to my girlfriend. Thank God.
Gang.
Your student tickets are nuts. I'm not gonna lie, for no reason at all, too. It's kind
they
of
all
stupid.
are now.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I hope they're good. I hope they do well. I'm a big fan of their offense, but just question marks on maybe the defensive pass side of the ball.
Agreed. I think so, but I'm gonna 6 and 6.
I'll take it. I don't care what the win total is. I think is it 5 or
5.5?
Is it 5? Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Other than that, I think that does it. I think we ranked everybody.
Yes.
Cool. So that's Power 4. We just pretty much knocked that out of the park. This is where HT gets interesting. All right. So next week we're planning on Group of 5.
Notre Dame.
Some of them. A decently clean sweep of the futures plays that we've added thus far since episode 1. Outside of that, I think it's pretty much just going to fall into our hands at that point of what we want to do and when we want to do it before week 0 is here, and then we'll review those games when the time comes, obviously. But in terms of content, they're going to be one tuned in. So, and we've had a lot of impressions, a lot of clicks, a lot of views, a lot of listens. It's already improvement from last year, so I can't thank everybody enough. It's been really fun, and we haven't even started the season yet, so this is going to be really cool. Unless if you have anything else to add, I think we're pretty much done here.
Yeah, no, appreciate the support. We'll have a college football bracket, all three of us, pending Dylan,
True.
next week as well. So, and then we've got a lot of big things planned up for this coming season. Keep it entertaining and keep it fun.
So that's the goal. So, yep. Don't really have anything else there. So, appreciate you guys. Best community in the world. We will see you guys next week for Group 5 and Fun Belt, Conference USA, Action. We're going to get into it. It's going to be fun. So I like this next episode a lot. So yeah, I can't wait. All right. See you guys next week.